Welcome to Hello Port Hueneme. I'm your host Tom Dunn, and this is the City Council review. We do a video review with one of the council members, and we try to go over and capsulize what went on at the meeting in case you didn't have 3 hours or more to watch the live feed. And I want to welcome Will Berg, City Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tom. Glad to be here.
Good. We're going to go over a few of the topics that were of major concern and got the most attention, and I think things that you'll be interested in hearing about. The first thing on the docket at the City Council meeting was the Housing Authority. The one that has been up front for the last couple years has been the Mar Vista Apartments in Port Hueneme, and they have had ongoing issues about the condition of security, heating, smoking, ventilation, air vents, and over the last year or two they have and have not been addressed. Some of them have, some of them haven't. These citizens, it was a year and a half ago, met with the city at a city council meeting and formed what they said was a good working relationship for the future, where they would communicate back and forth. And so there were some citizens there today, at the meeting on Monday night, that said some issues that they thought needed to be addressed had not been addressed. There are window seals that are not properly done. There are air coming through other entrances, doors, whatever. The heating is not up to par. One lady, I think it was, said she even has to have their oven on and open to keep it warm enough. So these are issues that they're concerned about. What is the city's, where do they stand on this? What are their plans? I know there is a 5-year plan, but more so now, what is the this recent history plan to cover?
Well, the problems with Mar Vista continue to be troubling, and I believe that we do have to become much more proactive in getting inside those units and making those repairs that are necessary. We need to work on these buildings. I was very impressed with their questionnaire that they came back with. It was very well done. It was 15 questions, maybe 20 topics.
That they asked other residents there?
All the residents had filled them out, and it was 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, and they were averaging a little over 2.2, 2.3. This is a good measuring stick for the city to take very seriously and to start using that questionnaire. It's a good roadmap for what they need to get done. In addition to that, several of the residents of Mar Vista did come and visit and themselves express their concern regarding the heating, the window condition especially, cold wind coming in. This is the time to start making these repairs as we head into the summer season, warmer weather. It's not going to be as cold as these winters can be here, of course. So I see that we should take this questionnaire to heart, and we should go from a 2.2 and strive to get up to an average of 4 on this maybe, or maybe even higher. But we have to start responding more, and I would like to see, and I believe we will see, more active returns from Mar Vista on progress and what's being done specifically. I know the other council members share that same sentiment, that we need to see things getting done. Now, there are some funds that are coming back from HUD. However, the last signatures that need to be obtained from the federal government have not yet come. So the city manager, city staff doesn't feel free to be able to release these funds to start affecting some of these repairs. The delay is frustrating, but we have to make sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted before we take these funds and start expensing them. There are also other properties in the city that have to be worked on as well. So the total amount that will be coming back from HUD will not all necessarily go to Mar Vista, but it's important that we do allocate funds to affect these repairs. I appreciate the citizens showing up and talking to us about.
The citizens did, like you said, they came and talked, and they said they went through last winter with the cold air and lack of heat. And I think the city needs to get very creative in finding a way that they don't have to go through this upcoming winter to experience that again. And it's a lot of them are not in the best of health. They not real ambulatory, and so they need our looking after to make sure that.
I'd like to see a follow-up questionnaire in the middle of the summer and a follow-up one, a third one, just at September, October timeframe before winter starts.
Yeah.
And really see what's going on by way of the citizens themselves.
All right, thank you for that explanation, and we'll keep you updated as to as soon as the fund's available, and then they'll have to have some bids and see what it's going to cost and how long it'll take to do this work.
But let's just get it done.
Yeah. The next major issue is, I'm sure many of you are aware of the Mary's Food Store on Ventura Road that used to be operating. It's been somewhere 3 to 4 years. I go by it every day, and the time flies, and
Yes.
so there has been an inquiry going on for at least a year, and it was announced at the city council meeting that CVS Pharmacy is going to put in a drugstore, and they're even planning on having a drive-through there. So can you give us an update as to what they have said in more detail that they plan to do there?
It's going to be an excellent opportunity for development in that shopping center. The shopping center needs a lot of upkeep itself. And CVS, yes, will have a drive-through for their prescription drugs. They're anticipating it's going to be a year and a half out before they get complete with all of the construction that needs to be accomplished. But it's going to be a real shot in the arm for that little shopping center, and hopefully it would attract more businesses to perhaps move in. They're talking right now about perhaps being open 24 hours a day. And whether that's a good idea, a bad idea, I think their business model would be the best indicator of level of success for that or not. The drive-through is going to be very similar to the drive-through that's being built over at the Ralph's shopping center on
Starbucks.
Chalmers Boulevard. Starbucks is building a drive-through there now too. So there's quite a bit of construction. That particular shopping center just finished the construction of the hamburger stop, and now construction continues on again. Why they couldn't have done both at the same time, but that's the case. But it's good to see businesses such as CVS Pharmacy moving in.
I saw at the city council meeting they did have the drawings, or some drawings of what it could look like, 2 or 3 options, and it looks like they're going to have to redo the whole outside and the inside, because the outside looks like it came from the 1950s, and it's going to need some work. The only question that I heard some people afterwards express was the 24-hour service, in that it's a residential area off to the on the side and in the back of it, and how much traffic, light, noise would that be for the residents there? When you consider, since I live out that way, it's a fairly gentrified people that live there, and they don't tend to go out too much later at night. If they're going to shop or do business there, it's most likely going to be in the daytime. So the representative from CVS said they had not made any commitment yet, that they were taking it into consideration.
Exactly.
And I hope it's something that the city, maybe with some help, can do some surveys in the area and see what the people think, and help CVS decide what's needed to be done.
Now's the time to do that kind of thing too,
Right.
before you start construction.
The next issue on that came up is a cannabis dispensary was approved by the city council, and it is located at 100 West Pleasant Valley, which is if you go down Pleasant Valley, not towards Camarillo, but towards the
East,
east.
west, I'm sorry, west on Pleasant Valley Road.
You run into the Navy base. There's a gate there. Well, right in front of that, off to your left, is a little commercial area. There's 2 or 3 other businesses, and there is a bar that's been there for 75 years, up on the top of one of the buildings there. And the person that owned that wants to close it down, which they already have, and put in a cannabis dispensary. The main issue there was a concern that it is in a residential area. There's a lot of apartments and condos and stuff around there. I know the city council, it was on the agenda 2 weeks ago, and they moved it to this agenda because they wanted to do some more talking about it. And so again, the residents there brought up their issues of traffic, of parking, of noise, and a number of other things. And the city then took all that into consideration and had a vote. And the vote was, if I remember, it was 2-2, right?
3-2.
3-2. I thought, oh, okay, something else they voted on was 2-2, but because there was a abstention. But yeah, the final vote was 3-2 in favor of having the cannabis dispensary there, and I believe it was John Sharkey and Jim Hensley and yourself that voted for it. What I'd like to do is to ask you to explain your thought process of going through that, and then after that we'll have Tom Figg, City Council member, who along with Sylvia Snop voted against having it there. So however much time you'd like to do to explain the situation so that the people understand what went through the process of the decision.
Very tough issue, and I feel that the developer probably could have done a better job in not only approaching the city to explain the project, but also approaching the neighborhood. That community involvement is critical, and there had been none prior. And to have these citizens come out the way they did is much appreciated, frankly. We need to hear those comments. Unfortunately, that block from Panoma Street down to, I think it's San Pedro, is a commercial block. This is not going to be a standalone development by itself to have this cannabis shop be there in the middle of this very residential neighborhood. There are developers who are looking at the entire block. They're looking at bringing in more apartments. They're looking at bringing in more retail businesses. I know that there's ideas for a restaurant, a cigar shop, and other multi-use 2-story, maybe 3-story development all along that block. However, there has to be much more community outreach about this as a composite project altogether. However, again, this is not one developer alone. There's more than one, and plans are not complete yet. There's still negotiations. Yes, they've reached out. They're starting to reach out to the Navy. It's important too because the Navy could easily, as a federal installation, say, not a good idea. We need to move this. Also, we have the ability after 1 year of the contract. We renew and review progress, and are they keeping within the terms of the ordinance and stipulations within the ordinance. For example, parking, critical problem. And if the parking doesn't work out, and that they think it will work out, but if it doesn't, that is cause to remove that and to have another vote by the council. I'm ready to give them an opportunity, but I'm not ready to give them a blank check and just let them wander off and start doing their project in isolation. The developer still needs to reach out to the community. That wasn't done, and that did not serve the city or the community very well. We hope that with more information, we can enlist our neighbors that live in that neighborhood to stay in touch with the council, let us know what's happening. Some of the complaints and some of the fears were the same complaints and fears that were expressed with the other dispensary locations. It's almost as if it's going to be an opium den, and there are going to be people lying on the streets, and instead of drinking beer from the top deck, now they're going to be doped out on the streets or something. And we just haven't seen that happen yet. There are some very strict rules and guidelines, and the idea, the concept of whether we're going to have dispensaries or not was discussed a year ago, in depth, and a lot of public hearings, and once the decision was made by the council to go forward with this, I felt that, well, let's give them the opportunity. But the neighbors, I need you to be watching. We need you to be watching to see how this unfolds. If it's not working, your council will take action, we promise.
Thank you very much for that. And parking and traffic are a big, big issue. It's a small area, and
Yes, it is.
there will be increased traffic in some aspect. We're not sure, and you're right, we don't know how the Navy will handle it.
Well, and the numbers that the owner of the bar gave for how many cars he had there when the bar was operating and what was out on the sidewalk. I worked on Panoma Street down at the other end, and whenever I was going out to Pleasant Valley to go home, there were people on the sidewalks. I don't expect to see those people on the sidewalk. If that happens, our neighbors have an opportunity to let us know. I assume that there's going to be a lot of eyes and ears on this property, and not only on the part of the city, but on the neighbors as well. And the neighbors take action. Go ahead. I appreciate the feedback. I just wish that the developer would have reached out earlier, and we could have had a more open process about this.
I believe the ordinance does say that the dispensary is required to have at least one security guard, maybe in some cases two, one inside and one outside. And the one outside is designed to make sure that once people come in, make the purchase and come back to the car, that they don't loiter around, that they're gone in a couple minutes. So I think a lot of things have been looked at to make it work as good as possible. And however it goes, then, like you said, you guys at the council plan to deal with it.
We plan on listening to the community on this issue, and we just have to create the opportunity's been created for them. It's up to the cannabis shop to make it or break it.
Well, we do have the city review that people can reply to.
Yes.
We have citizens forum with the city manager that people can reply to. We have Port Hueneme News where people can write in and state their views and concerns. And the one thing that has happened in the last year and a half is that the city has been responding so much quicker to issues and citizens' requests and suggestions than was ever done before. So I will look forward to making sure that when something pops up, you guys are aware of it.
And with our other dispensary locations, our police department has not expressed any outstanding concerns on that particular location. Perhaps we need them to get more involved in this, or maybe they already have. So there's a lack of information sometimes, and we would like to see a comprehensive development out there that would provide housing as well as more retail that would be more compatible with being in a neighborhood. We understand that.
Yeah. That's not like adding another store to a shopping center. It's a totally different dynamic that needs to be worked with and shaped and formed since it's a new industry, and we don't know exactly, can't say precisely what's going to happen.
It's a tough issue. So far it's been working well on the north side of town. But once we decide that we're in for a penny, it looks like we're going to be in for a pound.
Okay. Will, thank you very much for letting us know what went on at the whole city council and how you decided to vote for the dispensary. And in just a minute, we're going to have Councilman Tom Figg come up. He voted against the dispensary, and he's going to give us his view. Okay? Thank you. All right, now I'm welcoming Tom Figg. Welcome, Tom, to the
Hi,
review.
Tom.
And we're going to have you talk about what you went through, what you saw, what you evaluated, and that you voted not to have a dispensary in this location. As you went through and figuring out what you thought was the right thing to do.
Well, I don't know if there is a right thing to do. There's just differences of opinion. What we have here is a little bit different than the other dispensaries the city has permitted to this point. This particular dispensary proposal is in a residential area in what they call an R4 zone, which is a transitional zone. In this case, it's very much part of a residential, established residential neighborhood. The other dispensaries to this point have been in commercial zoned areas of the city, on the north side of the city. And so this introduces kind of a different dynamic than what we've had to deal with the other permits. And there was a contingent of folks that were concerned about the compatibility of this operation with the immediately adjacent residential area. We haven't had that kind of issue in the previous dispensary permits that have been approved. So it did create a bit of a point of discussion with the council, and we ended up having a split vote of 3-2. So it wasn't by any means that everybody was unanimous in their support or opposition. It was an issue that had to be vetted. I doubt that everybody was comfortable at the end of the day, but that's the process. I think the concern here was that because it has this residential interface, that the use received a great deal more scrutiny than it might have been if it had been located in a commercially zoned area where you didn't have residential adjacency. In this case, the project had previously been entertained about a month ago, and the vote was just the opposite, to say no to the property or to the project. And so the applicant re-examined his operation and his business plan and then reapplied. And so we had a second round of debating this very location in the project. In my way of thinking, the conditions haven't changed. I voted no the first time, and there was nothing compelling in my mind to change that opinion. The fundamental issue of traffic and particularly parking, or lack thereof, hadn't changed. There hadn't been any meaningful efforts to fix that particular concern of the neighborhood. And so in my mind, we hadn't really made a meaningful impact in trying to resolve this issue. And there are other alternatives, a potential larger project that could in fact resolve parking and traffic by involving adjacent properties in a larger redevelopment of that area.
Expanding the area a little bit more.
Well, yeah, there's several properties, some vacant, some the city owns, and they're in various states of disrepair. And so there's an opportunity here to really make a positive impact on that neighborhood through a more ambitious, larger scale redevelopment effort. And so that was a compelling reason in my mind for saying no, because we've always said, as we've gone through this process, that we're kind of in a leadership role in terms of cannabis in Ventura County. We're one of the very few communities that have been receptive, but that carries a certain responsibility of let's do it right. And in this case, I didn't feel that there was a good fit for this particular operation at this particular location, And I didn't want an approval to derail the overall initiative of the city to accommodate cannabis in the various zones that it's allowed. So that was what drove me to say, I just don't feel that there's the value-added benefit of this use coming to this location, and I don't want to put at risk our broader initiative of economic development in the community at large, with cannabis being a big part of that effort. So it was a tough decision, but that's how I took a look at the matter.
Well, as Will said, there wasn't a lot of information provided out to the community as far as what would happen in the future possibly that would make the whole thing a totally different dynamic.
I absolutely agree with Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Berg, is that it wasn't well vetted. And I don't think that's necessarily the city's responsibility. It should have been the applicant and the other investors that are looking at this grander redevelopment opportunity to really engage the residents in a to educate them, to elicit their feedback, to incorporate their thinking into their design plans. That certainly didn't occur, and that again was a deciding factor in my mind, is that why are we doing this again? We already had a vote on this matter a month and a half ago. I see no change from the circumstances that existed then. So again, that was my line of thinking.
Well, it's good to have both council members' viewpoint, and we haven't heard, it'll be interesting to hear what the viewers have to say about what we presented here, and they can make their feelings felt, and as Will said, hey, they're more than happy to listen and make sure that this is done correctly, and I'm sure you feel exactly the same way.
Oh, all the council wants to do it correctly, but we each approach these kinds of decisions with our own filters and how we see the facts stacking up that derives the decision. And so there's no right or wrong in these kinds of matters. It's really a matter of squaring up the facts and applying your own way of rationalizing the issues that are at hand and arriving at a conclusion. And there's no right or wrong in this.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks for your view. And if the viewers have any suggestions or questions, you can get in touch with us and we will pass it along. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on our next City Council review.